Thank you.
I think the connection is like the most important thing we can be working on, like as a society. I think that we're like in a more plugged in world where everyone's like on their phones, etc. But you know, I've always just been interested in the ideas of like what connects us, and being biracial, being half Asian, half European. You know, it was just kind of like, how does the Holocaust exist when you're biracial? How does, ideas of genocide, ideas of politics, etc. Because the point is, like, we all share a common humanity, and that humanity is exemplified by this paradox about these audacious, like, dreams that we have as individuals, which is exemplified by Free Solo or The Rescue or Meru, or by Jimmy's entire career, but married with this paradox that you have to actually put in the work and have like the chutzpah and have the courage and the ingenuity to see it through. So I think that that's kind of always been kind of my guiding light, irregardless of what we're looking at, like what realm we're looking at. But I think that being a daughter of immigrants, like being biracial, I always thought of myself as like an outsider looking in and interested in this question of connection.
I mean, I think it's really important, particularly given the world we live in right now. And, you know, there's policy and politics and, you know, geopolitics that sometimes there's so much of it, and there's so much conflict in it. Sometimes you forget that we all are just human beings and that we do all share this common humanity. I think our films really try to speak to that common humanity as well. And, you know, like The Rescue, and just kind of looking at different cultural beliefs and religious beliefs and people who speak different languages coming together to try to do something good, and that sort of cooperation and what can be achieved through that cooperation. I think that's what is, you know, really amazing about the Asia Society. That is the mission, and there's so many incredible people involved in it. It gives me hope.
I think we're also all living under kind of the legacy of being Asian in the world, where it's always kind of a quiet, humble stereotype, so to speak. And for me, I just think it's inspiring to be in this room and to stand in the shadows of those who've come before us, or even those who are coming after us. Because, like, you know, Bo's out there, or having Janet Yang introduce us. Like, it's incredibly moving. It feels like a moment of community and connection and belonging, which I think is incredibly meaningful, especially when you come from a minority. And that's always kind of trying to, like it's a very complicated cultural, sociological, like ethnic question. And for me, I don't know, having grown up here in New York, having my mom having worked at the Asia Society, it's like an incredibly meaningful moment of connection.
Yeah, I think the biggest kind of overwhelming sense that I get from tonight is just a sense of community in this room, and being a part of a community that has a voice, and I guess so many voices. You know, I think if you want to talk about previous game changers and even tonight's other recipients, clearly it's a huge honor to be among them, but it again gives me hope that there are, when you put them all in a room and you think, wow, there are a lot of very powerful and meaningful voices that can create change.
For me, I just growing up in New York City, being biracial and being the child of immigrants, I was always felt myself an outsider. But I think I understood that eventually to be a strength, where, there's a quote about how like translation is the closest form of reading. So I always felt like I could look at a story and listen more closely than anyone else because I was from the outside. And I think, so like for me, it became a point of pride. It became a point of strength. I think of something that Jimmy says to our daughter about like, I am strong. Like that's where I got my strong, was from being actually from the outside and being acutely aware of how to translate those stories in a more universal human way so that those outsiders could understand it.
I think we share that idea of being an outsider. I grew up in kind of a rural town in central Minnesota, and there were not very many Asians, if any other Asians in town. And I always felt like I had one foot in one world and one foot in another world. I was, growing up in Mankato, Minnesota, but then when I went home, I was with very traditional Chinese parents. And in a way, it's as if I was observing both experiences from the other side. And that, I think, has had a huge influence on how I approach the stories that we tell, because I'm looking at, kind of both sides of the story as a filmmaker from the outside, but as an athlete on the inside, or a participant on the inside, because I understand the world that we're filming really well and I'm tied to them very closely. That is something that those instincts came from my childhood.